Everybody, this is Andrew Guy with Andrew Guy Speaks.com, empowering you to create your greatest impact where you live, where you work, and where you play. I'm excited about today's discussion, really. There's so much going on, there's so much hate in the world, but I'd also like to say there's so much love in the world. The reason why we don't hear the love is because it's not being broadcast, it's not being captured, it's not being shared, it's not being promoted, but there is more hate that is promoted. And anywhere there is hate being promoted, guess what? Evil is present. All right, so for those of you that are joining me for the first time, my name is Andrew Guy, Andrew E. Guy, and my page is Andrew E. Guy Speaks. So go out there and like me and send me a like and let's connect. All right. I'm also on LinkedIn. LinkedIn, that is Andrew Guy Speaks. I'm also on Instagram. Instagram is Andrew Guy Speaks. I'm also over there on YouTube, Andrew Guy Speaks. Subscribe to my channel, hit the notification bell, and let's get this connection cracking. I'm excited about today's discussion, really. And we're asking the question that what would the world be like if we can see other humans the way God sees us? Wow. What would the world be like if we can see other humans the way God sees us? And how does God see us? Sees us as sons and daughters, brothers and sisters. I mean, think about it, guys. Let's think. Over the past couple of months, we have seen so many broadcasts. One of the main things that we've been seeing so far is Black Lives Matter. Now, I'm not one to jump on a bandwagon, but I want to say this. I had a live LinkedIn cast tonight with a good friend of mine named Michael Goldberg, and we're talking about inequality and racism, systemic racism in the hiring process for executive leader levels and BE, black executives, and so forth. That these opportunities have been dwindled, they have been locked down, they have been confiscated, they're just been they're in a position where it's like they're not available to POC or people of color. But I don't want to focus on that today because I believe that if you focus on the problem, that problem will just get bigger and bigger and bigger and grows. When it comes to racism, when it comes to systemic racism, it's everywhere. It's been there. And that's why it's systemic because it's been perpetuated over the years. I was speaking to Michael today on LinkedIn, and one of the things that we were discussing is that what can we do to solve this problem? What can we do to deal with the hiring process, the inequality in the hiring process, to allow more people of color, more executives to really get in, get in on some of these opportunities. A person once said that one of the persons that were on the chat line came in and said, "Well, um, we can't find them, or we don't have the resources." I'm thinking, "Excuse me, you can't find them? You don't have the resources? How are you looking? Where are you looking? If you are looking for blacks or black executives, then you will find them. But if you're not looking for them, then it's like a needle in a haystack. You will never find them." But that's all I want to say on that. I want to say this. If we look at human beings the way God see us, then the color wouldn't matter. Yes, I'll be the first to tell you I'm a black man, and don't get me smiling. You will see the white ivories pop out, and don't get me looking. You see the white of my eyes and the black of my eyes, and don't get me saying high five to you. You see the tan of my hand. So in a way, I'm a black man, but I am very diverse, as you can see. Okay. I want to say that because many people focus on the exterior. They focus on the external. They focus only on what they can see. Martin Luther King said it best. He said, "Don't see us." They don't want our people to be seen, or anyone for that matter, to be seen for the skin tone, but to be judged by the content of their character. I speak of content on my podcast, and if you never heard or haven't listened to the podcast, really go check it out. The podcast basically is I Am Listening, I Am Ready, hosted by yours truly, Andrew E. Guy. And go over there by anchor.fm/ Andrew Guys podcast. Go look at it, find it over there on it's on LinkedIn now. It's also on Overcast. It's also on Apple Cat. It's out there. Just go find it. Okay. And I'll also post up a link in the description. I also have it on my website. But let's talk about this. If we were to see other human beings the way God sees them, God, as a matter of fact, doesn't really see a black man or he doesn't see a white man. He sees his sons and his daughters, right? But he already know what color of a person he created. Case in point, there was a story in the Bible that talks about the three different servants. One was given 5 talents, one was given 2 talents, and the other was given 1 talent, right? Didn't say if they were black, if they were white. It didn't matter if they were gray or brown skin. He said that they were just servants, and each of them were given talents, just like we are today. All of us are given talents and gifts and expertise and specialities, right? These are what we come gifted with. Now, are they ready to be used out of the box? No, we don't just pop them out of the box and use them. They have to be developed, right? Now, let's look at the three servants. One that was given 5 talent. The one that was given 5 talent. What happened to his 5 talent? Took the 5 talent, and guess what he did? He invested it. He grew it. He developed it, and he doubled what he was given. The other one that was given 2, the same thing. Doubled it, invested it, came back. Guess what the master said? Well done, good and faithful servant. Come on in. Come on in. Didn't say he was a white or gray or pink person. Come on in and experience my glory. The one that had the 1 talent, what did he do with it? Buried it. So when we look at the hiring process of humanity, people of color, so to speak, and that's what we're kind of focusing right now. When we look at that, we are seeing a disproportionate evaluation of the people who are being hired and the ones who get hired and ones who do not get hired. I was watching a documentary the other day, and it was showing all the different systems that are put in place to prevent people of color from advancing. I mean, billions of dollars were put in place to foster and to perpetuate a systemic racism that hinders people of color from making it. It hit me, and I'm thinking to myself, why would you go to that much trouble? Can you hate a particular race or a group of people that much that you wouldn't want to see them survive? You wouldn't want to see them prosper. You wouldn't want to see them live and pursue happiness. Imagine that. But I like to go out on a limb and say that even with all the hurdles that were put in place, I want to give a huge shout out to every brother and every sister who continues to strive amid the struggle, amid the barricades, amid the hoops that they have to jump through. They didn't stop. They didn't look for an excuse. They didn't look for something to say, oh, well, it's because I'm black why I can't make it. No, they kept going. I know more than a handful. I know quite a bit of individual, regardless of their race, they continue to run the human race instead of the color race and still end up on the successful end. So I want to encourage you, whether you're a person of color, whether you're Hispanic, Asian, brown, doesn't matter, Indian, doesn't matter. I want to encourage you. I really do want to encourage you that don't let the color of your skin stop you from going forward. Don't let the color of your skin block you from opportunity. If there is, I love the way Bob Marley put it. He said, when one door is open, another one is open. And I want to go on the limb and say this. If the door is open, climb through the window. And if that window is closed, that means, hey, that may be a door that you're not supposed to go in. Why not create your own door? Why not? Now, many years ago, I know if you think about the Hollywood basically has hundreds. I'm talking thousands of actors. And if we're looking at just actors, then there are hundreds of them, thousands of them, right? But if we're looking at black actors or people of color actors and actresses, there are hundreds of them. However, when we look at the Oscars, there was a huge uproar about why aren't blacks being supported? Why aren't people of color being selected to get Oscars and so forth? Yes, it was a big uproar, and they made a big stink about it. And I was thinking to myself, I said, if you feel that strongly about your craft and the expertise and the value that you bring to the Oscars, if they're not selecting you, well, why don't you carve out your own stream? You have enough people of color, you have enough experts, you have enough millionaires in America, in Black America. Why not start your own? If that's the case, why continue to knock and to bang on a door that is seemingly close to you when you can open up your own? And the strangest thing is that if you look at most of the movies, the action packed movies, even dramas, whatever you want to look at, it didn't matter what genre you're looking at. The best movies, I think, personally, my personal opinion, are those where you have diversity well represented. I love movies when I see brothers and other Caucasian, like two, let me just call them two brothers. One was white and one was a black guy, right? And both of them come together. I mean, the movie just, the experience is so rich when you get to see the white guy give his reaction to a circumstance or a situation, and then you get to see a brother or the black guy's response to a situation. It's amazing. It makes for great entertainment. And it really is a true depiction of what the world is about, naturally, before systems are put in place to inhibit other people from making it. Think about that. I see that movie with Danny Glover and Mel Gibson, or the other one with Nick Nolte and Eddie Murphy. There are so many. I mean, there's a next one. What's his name? Kevin Hart and The Rock. There are so many movies out there where you have a black guy and a white guy going together and they're just making it happen. Even let's even get away from the black and white. Let's go with Asian and white American. Chuck Norris and Bruce Lee, great example. And I mean, there's so many of them. There's so many of them. You've seen recently, as of recent, and Donnie Yen and Mike Tyson. Guys, listen, I love the way Robert Palmer puts it in his song. It said it takes every kind of people. What am I talking about? Every kind of people to make the world go round. Go round is my metaphorical way of saying allow it to continue. It takes every kind of people. Doesn't take just blacks. It doesn't take just white. It doesn't just take brown. It takes every kind of people. Now, I'm not going to be ignorant about the fact that the new slogan or the uproar now is about Black Lives Matter. Now, listen, if they just realize Black Lives Matter, then we got a problem. All lives matter. The fact now that Black lives just matter seems to be the issue. No, Black lives always matter. And this is the issue that we're trying to get people to see, that they're trying to make it only just about Black Lives Matter as in a slogan, or companies and industries are using the Black Lives Matter slogan as a way of trumping up PR awareness for their company. Yes, not every company is doing it, but there are some that are doing so. And the reason why I'm saying that, because we had that conversation today, is like, if you're talking about diversity, if you're singing diversity, then let's look at your choir. If you're singing diversity, let's look at the makeup of your choir. Meaning, let's look up at the makeup of your executive and management and people who are in decision-making role in your company. So that's where we'll know if diversity does matter and inclusion, who are you including in your company? All right. So that's one of the things that we were talking about today. I want to go off on a limb and I want to say this again, that Morgan Freeman said it, but I expound upon it. He said this. Morgan Freeman says, if we focus on color, he just said it's a good excuse for not making it. I was like, what are you talking about? So he was saying that for people who don't make it, who use race as an excuse, he said that's a good excuse for not making it. But I'm saying to you, this is what I'm saying. This is my quote. It says, if you want a good enough excuse for not making it, then focus on the race that separates humanity. I'm going to say it again. If you are looking for a good enough excuse for not making it or living your dreams and making your dreams a reality, then focus, only focus on the race that separates humanity. What am I talking about? If you focus on the skin tone, you will never see the human. If you focus on the paint job of a car, you will never see the engine that could. All right? Booker T. Washington once said, and I became aware of this statement through a recording or a video that was posted on social media. And the video said that there are people who are involved in the race relation problem solving, right? Who, like a doctor, don't want the sick to get well, because if they get well, then they won't have a job. That if they get well, then there wouldn't be anything to talk about. If there were no black issues, then these people who so-called solve these black issues will not be able to go out and be speaking and to draw attention or to command a salary or some kind of audience to interact with. So I want to say to you that if that's your sole purpose of doing the Black Lives Matter thing, then basically you're basically doing a disservice to yourself. You're doing a disservice to humanity. You're doing a disservice to every person on planet Earth. It's a difficult time for everyone, but it is especially a difficult time for people of color. I think we get to the stage now where people of color are just fed up. They're just fed up with what's going on. And after watching that video about how the systems were put in place, I'm talking billions of dollars are put in place to make sure that certain races or black people are held back systemically from educational improvement, from economic improvement, or housing improvement, even just to create wealth through owning a home is one of the systems that are put in place. When I think about Jackie Robinson, I'm thinking, oh my goodness, how did Jackie Robinson make it? I mean, when you hear thinking now, I mean, many years forward, how did he make it? How did the BB Kings of the past make it? How did Martin Luther King and those guys make it? How did Harry Belafonte, how did Lou Gossett Jr., how did those guys make it? I would love to sit down and just have a conversation with those guys. I didn't hear them running around and throwing up a fist and say, hey, Black Lives Matter. I didn't hear them say, oh, it's because I'm black, why I can't get anywhere. I didn't hear them say, they just went out and did it. And then they came back and they told their story. It's difficult what we're going through, people. But I want you to understand, the reason why we're going through this is because people are still hurting. It is once said before that hurting people hurt people. A true statement, and I believe that. When we stop hurting ourselves, that's the only time that we can lend a helping hand. But if we are drowning, we cannot save someone else that's drowning because both individuals will drown. If we are hurting, we cannot heal a next person if they are hurting too. We will just add injury upon insult, and both individual who become hurt will lash out in an emotional expression. I once said that if you live on emotion, you will walk on your feelings. If you live on emotion, you will walk on your feelings. That if you only live from an emotional perspective, everything will affect you. Everything in life will affect you. Now, I know you're saying, Andrew, so what do you mean by that? What do you mean by that. Don't you ever experience racism? Yeah. Have you ever got pulled over by cops and got mistreated? Yeah. I remember specifically when I was in school studying in the United States. I went to Southern Arkansas University, and as a black man in the South, let me just say straight up, black man in the South, it was scary for me. First of all, it was scary because of a news that was brought to me before I left to go to school. A friend of mine once said to me that, "Hey man, you're going to the South. You know it's tough down there." At the time I was in Canada, I said, "Yeah, it's tough down there." I said, I heard, but that's not my focus." And I said that because I believe that in life, whatever you focus on, that's what you will see. If you focus on hate, you will only see hate. If you focus on love, you will see love. Just like a magnifying glass. If you focus that magnifying glass on the sun, it will burn anything. But if you keep it moving, if you have I'm getting back to my story, but if you have a purpose in your life and a vision and a mission and a value statement to make your life count, you're going to be so busy living it that you will not be focusing on the things or everyone's feeling or everything that pops up to make mainstream media tick. You're going to be so busy doing you that whatever comes your way, yes, you're going to build up the enough resilience to make sure you are getting your job done. Does it mean you ignore everything that's happening around you? No. It's like saying, hey, all life matter. Hey, duh, everybody lives matter, right? And if we look at it from a human body or anatomical perspective, it's like looking at every cell in the body. There are trillions of cells in the body, but let's go out a little wider. There are hundreds of different organs, some discovered and some which we have not discovered, are inside the body. But let's say, for example, we only focus on just the heart. We only focus on just the lung just because it's a black lung or it's just a white heart. Then we miss everything else. If we're saying that's the only thing that matters, then we're saying we don't need any of the other tissues. Systemically thinking, that's what has happened. It's like having a heart in the body and all of the tissues matter and all of the tissues and cells and organs are needed and are necessary for life to be sustained within the human body. But we systemically set up blockades. We systemically set up hindrances or hurdles to prevent the heart from pumping. Then guess what's going to happen? If the heart were a black heart, right, and then the systems that are put in place hinder the black heart from pumping adequately, let's look at the heart now as the only pump within the system of the anatomical body that supplies blood to everywhere in the body. If we shut that down, then guess what? Every other tissue in the body will die. It will suffer from malnutrition, from nutrients and oxygen, because that's what happened. The blood carries those entities. But if the heart doesn't pump, it will not be able to pump the blood to the different tissues that are working. What am I saying to you? It takes every kind of people to make the world go around. It doesn't just take the white person, it doesn't just take the black person, it doesn't just take the brown, it doesn't just take the blue people, if there is such a thing. It takes every kind of people. A great song written by Robert Palmer, just a beautiful song. The message in there is that it takes everybody. It's going to take every tissue. It's going to take all of our effort. It's not just going to take the effort of just black people to eradicate the systemic of racism. It's not going to, it's going to take everybody. So, they say silence basically is guilt. If you're silent, that means that you're part of the problem too. So if it takes every kind of people, what does that simply mean? It's not just going to take black people just rioting on the street and burning buildings just to get a point across. It's not just going to take famous black people, let's say Morgan Freeman and all the other ones who are in mainstream media, because it seems like all of those guys are the only ones who get to say so or get the platform to deliver a message or to say, hey, listen, this is what we can do to make the change. The change is not just gonna, it's not gonna come through Hollywood. If that's what we're waiting for, the change is not gonna come through TV personnel. It's not gonna come through Steve Harvey alone. It's not gonna come through Jamie Foxx. It's not gonna come through any one of Hollywood's, because they're busy working and they're going through their own issues too. It's gonna take people like you and me for the systemic things that are going on in the hiring process in HR. Those people who are not doing their job, it's called human resources. Now I'm switching topics now. I'm going over to the hiring process and why that is so unfair and why it's a systemic problem, because it's ingrained even in the hiring process. So if we have individuals within the hiring process that are putting blockade and putting up roadblocks and hurdles to prevent people of color, or not just people of color, but Hispanics, Asian, doesn't matter, prevent any other race other than white from getting these positions, then you need to get fired. You need to be out of there. You're not a human resource specialist. You're a thing resource specialist. You shouldn't be handling human resources. You should be handling things. You should be working on a harbor or something like that. You should be working in shipment, handling boxes, because humans have feelings. And for you to be in HR and putting up blockades, and for you to be perpetuating the roadblocks that hinder a particular person from coming into the business to make a business grow, then you shouldn't be in there. You should be on the other end of the stick, or on the other end of the grass where it's not so green. You know what I would love to do? I'd like to go out on the road one day with a camera and, voluntarily have a couple of the CEOs or the HR managers or specialists, whatever they call themselves, and have them just walk in the shoe of a person of color as they go through the job process. I thought that would be a great, just an amazing project. It would be great. And if the Lord opens up the door for me to do that, I would really love to do that. To just walk in the shoe of a job seeker who has all the skills, all the expertise, I shouldn't say all, but has the qualification to do the job effectively, but don't get the opportunity to do the job. And I want to look at it from both perspectives. I don't just want to look at it from a black person perspective. I want to look at it from the hiring person perspective. Like, if you're an executive, why wouldn't you choose the best person for the job? If you are experiencing a heart attack, you want the best cardiovascular surgeon. You don't just want a black, you don't just want a white, you just don't want a pink or a brown. You want the best person, so to speak. And if you have the best individual, then guess what? They're going to get the job done. But if you are an organization and you are on the mantra of diversity and inclusion, and you only hire just to say, hey, listen, I fit the bill, or just to say on your PR note, guess what? We rock diversity, and because we rock diversity, here are only two pea grain in the white rice. Let me use that as a good example. Here are only two pea grain in a bed of rice, just to show that we have some color around here. Or here are two brown people. Here are two Hispanic people. Here are two indigenous people. Really, if that's all you're saying to make it look like you're diverse in your company, then guess what? You're saying something, and it's only saying PR, 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 brand awareness. If you're not serious about diversity, then you should be on the other hand. You should be on the other end of the spectrum, trying to look for a job or to outsource your expertise and your specialities, but you're not getting any bites. Because guess what? The fish are there, but they are basically scrape the pond or put a surface between you and the middle of the water so you can't get down to the fish, or basically stop the fish from going up. It's terrible what's happening. It is a catastrophe what's happening and what has happened to people of color for decades upon decades upon decades. I'll go back to my original question. What would the world look like if, and only if, we see humanity the way God sees us? There's a great song that's sung by what's the gentleman's name? Oh man, Harris, something Harris. The name slips me a while ago. Oh, Harris, what's your name? Oh, what's your name? Harris? Um, Gosh, it will come back to me. But it's one of my favorite songs. And it says, "You're my brother, you're my sister. Come and take me by the hand." If you know who that is, just put his name in. Harris, something Harris. I don't. His name's slipping me right now. And he said, "Go and take me by the hand together." Larnell, Larnell, that's the man right there. Larnell Harris sing this song. He said, "You're my brother, you're my sister. Come and take me by the hand. Together we will work until he come. Ain't no foe that can between us when we walking side by side. Together we will work until he come." Oh. And that song is powerful. If we look at each individual as a brother or a sister, from a human perspective, we want to look out for their best interests. Imagine what the world would be like if the race that we really run, was the race of humanity instead of the race of color. Could you imagine if we're running the same race? If we're saying, "You're my brother, you're my sister, come and take me by the hand, and together we will work until he comes." Until what? Until the one that created us come back and say, "Well done, good and faithful servant." And since we talking about well done, good and faithful servant, what are we going to say for those who practice racism and those who perpetually promote racism in your company and prevent people of color, Asian people, Hispanic people, brown people, doesn't matter, and you are one of the people that are perpetually keeping this system or mindset alive? I ask you to sit down and think. I ask you to take a moment and think and put yourself in somebody else's shoe. Lou Gossett Jr., one of my favorite actors, did a movie called In His Father's Shoe that was shot here in Toronto, Canada. I was an extra in that movie. When I got a chance to meet Lou Gossett, it was such a great time for me. It was a great moment when I got a chance to shake his hand in downtown Toronto. And the movie is called In His Father's Shoe. Now, when I think about In His Father's Shoe, I really think about the HR professionals who willfully, strategically try to keep people of color out of the workspace, so to speak. I want you to walk in that person's shoe. I want you to have all the skills necessary to perform a particular job, but instead of hiring, you create a blockade and a hoop and a hurdle for yourself and for your children to go through. And I want to say this to you. I want you to think about living with the future in mind. Living with the future in mind simply means this. You may have a freedom right now to make a decision, but there is a day coming. There's a day coming when the decisions you make today, you will live tomorrow. The decisions you make today, you will live tomorrow. The decisions you make today are just like a seed, and the seed will grow and it will produce a harvest. My only hope is that the harvest that you reap might not be the same thing that you sow. So I'm going to come to a close now. We're about 35 minutes in. My name is Andrew E. Guy. I'm the author of Work Your Words and Finding Your Pathway to Personal Success. I am the author of, I don't have that book around right now, but it's available on my bookshelf back there. It's also available on Amazon.com. It's also available on my website. Go check it out. My website is andrewguyspeaks.com. You can reach me there. So a little bit about what I do. I try to give the content first before I go into what I do. I am an author and I'm a speaker. I'm a corporate consultant. So I go in and work on issues that deal with diversity, but more so to speak is to help people to work better, live better, so they can create more meaning out of life. How do I do that? Through my platform that's called Work-Life Enrichment Seminars. So Work-Life Enrichment Seminars brings to you and to your company a seminar that deals with helping your employee to understand the value statement of the employer. What am I talking about? We go over mission statement, vision statement, and your value statement. What am I saying? If a company doesn't have a value statement, then guess what? It doesn't stand for anything. That is only PR. You got to have a value statement that this is what we value, this is what we stand for, this is what we stand on, this is what we will not fall for. When you have those in place, then you can use those to make sure that the trajectory of where your company is going, if you are saying you're standing on diversity matter and inclusion matter, then it should be visible. It should be visible. I haven't spoken to Michael Goldberg today. We talk about how even though we have these diversity um, pockets within company, it also create segregation within the company because these companies also say, oh, well, we believe in diversity because we have the LGBTQ, LMNOP, whatever you want to call that. But we have those. We do. All of those are the alphabet is represented, so to speak, right? And we have our little black group over there. We have a little green group over there. We have a little brown group over there. We have Black History Month. We celebrate Black History Month too. And how long is that going to last? 28 days and 29 in a leap year. If Black history is just reduced or the contributions of a particular race have been reduced to only 29 days, then sorry, you can keep that. Okay? It's not about a Black History Month. It's about celebrating humanity. You're celebrating the gifts, celebrating everything that life has to offer. And it doesn't only come through one color or one race of people. Michael Palmer, man, you are the man. I hope to one day meet you and sit down and talk to you about the song. If you're listening, if you're ready, come holler at me. Reach out to me. Andrew Guy Speaks. And so we can sit down and talk about this song because this song is amazing. It's powerful. It takes every kind of people. I am sold on that song. I believe that song is the mantra for today. It takes every kind of people. And when one group of people are hurt, everyone hurts. Even if you don't think you're hurting, everyone hurts. Everybody hurts when the human race hurt. Everyone hurts. Because guess what? In this book that I wrote called The Anatomy of the Kingdom, we talk about how the different organs within the body rely on each other to sustain life or to keep you alive. And if one of them is hurt or one of them is damaged, one of them is infected, or there's a sickness and or cancer and or foreign matter or objects invade that particular organ, guess what? The entire body feels it. That's exactly what it is for humanity. When one hurt, we all hurt. And if one life matter, all life matter. And if only Black life matter, then what are you saying? What are you saying to all the lives that were taken years ago? All lives matter. Black lives may be in jeopardy right now. Not maybe, they are in jeopardy right now. And to close off, I'm going to say this. You have a human body that's healthy. And if you have an issue with the heart, do you go operate on the leg? If you have a brain tumor, do you go operate on the nose? If you have a toothache, do you operate on the eye? If you have an earache, who do you go see? You go see your audiologist. If you have a kidney problem, you go see the nephrologist. If you have a heart problem, you go see the cardiologist. Are you getting the point here? The point that I'm saying is that all lives matter. But right now, there's a particular organ or a group of organs that desperately need attention. All right? It's not just about the police brutality that we're experiencing. It's everywhere. It's systemic. Systemic means it's not just in one area. If cancer has become a systemic virus in your body that takes over your entire body, guess what? We're not just looking at the toe, we're looking everywhere. Systemic means that's inside your system. Systemic means it would be like the heart pumping the blood. And if the heart pumps the blood, then the blood is contaminated. It's a systemic problem. That means anywhere the blood goes, everywhere the heart pumps the blood to whatever tissue, that tissue will be infected. That tissue will have or experience a problem that the blood delivers. What am I saying to you? It's a systemic thing. It's not just white cops on black kids or white cops on black men. I heard Denzel Washington put it this way, and he said that the issue begins at home. We need black men to teach their sons how to be men. I completely agree, but that's only one aspect. There's only one part of the spectrum. It's like looking at the color wheel and said, "Hey, RG Biv, there's other colors within there too, right?" But I want to get you to understand what he's talking about is saying, yes, many youth are living a life of crime because they didn't have fathers in place. Yes, the research does say, and I completely agree, a home that doesn't have a father basically is susceptible to experiencing a life of difficulty and trauma. Completely, I believe that. Okay, not because a man is strong, but no, it completes the family. That's what it is. We're looking at not just the white part of the story, but we're looking at the black part of the story. We're not looking at the hand part of the story. We're looking at the arm, the complete arm of the story. I was talking about something on my podcast the other day about the racism and the cancer of racism and how it derails human potential. And I also said this. I said, guys, listen, most time we focus on the black of the hand or the white of the palm, and we miss the arm. Black of the hand, white of the palm, and we miss the entire arm. It's not about the color of the hand, it's the power of the arm to lift somebody out of an issue, to help another brother up, to help another sister up, to open up the door for another brother or sister, to take out the lock and the chains of the doors of opportunity so a human being, another human being, be in this case a brother, a person of color, can have an opportunity to share his expertise. I want to say that if you're banging on the door, if you are a person of color and you keep banging on a particular door that's not open, maybe God is trying to tell you something. Create your own door. If that's the case, don't sit there and cry. Create your own door. Okay? There's a scripture I thought about after saying that a while ago. There was a story about four lepers, and these lepers were hungry. Lepers back in the day, in the biblical days, is simply this: if you were a leper and you were infected with this particular ailment, you were considered unclean. You were cast out from among the clean people. You were cast out. If you live in a village, get out of there. They're going to get you out. They're going to cast you out and put you somewhere. You were left to die. Okay? So these four lepers, they were cast out. And they were talking to themselves. They had a little conversation. Say, hey, man. Probably didn't say it like that, but I'm saying it like that. They would say, hey, man, listen. We cast out. We're all in the same boat, but we're not swimming. We're all in the same dish, but we're not eating. We're all in the same camp, but we didn't bring any dessert. We're all on the same highway, but we're not driving. You get the picture. That's a metaphor. That means we're all going through the same thing, but guess what? We're all going to die. And the four leopards sat there and they said, I heard there was a story about a city. There was a city that there was a war going on. And this war was going on, and there was a battle. And the people who were in the conflict left. They left. And all the spoils were there. Food, water, everything you can think of, anything you can shake a stick at was there. And these four lepers knew it. And they said to themselves, we're going to die anyway. Should we stay here and die? Or would you want to die empty or you want to die full? They said to themselves, we know we're going to die. What should we do? Should we stay here, die empty, or die full? They made a decision to get up and go. And when they got up and go into the camp, there was food everywhere. Their intuition was right. They got enough food to fill themselves, and another one of them said, you know what? This is not right. This is not right. We shouldn't just sit here and eat for ourselves. Even though we were kicked out by those same people, we should go and tell them that this is what's going on and there's food available for everyone. Imagine, as I said, I go back to my original question. Imagine if we, like the lepers, see humanity the way God sees us. Brothers, sisters, sons, daughters. We can change the world. We can change the world. And just like Robert Palmer says, it's going to take every kind of people to make this world go round. I believe it's going to take every kind of people to eradicate systemic racism. Racism is not only visible inside or on the streets where cops are mistreating black youth and black men or people of color or Hispanic or Asian. It's not just there. That may be the focus. That may be the tipping point. That may be the trigger. But there are other covert things, covert systemic racism that are going on and has been going on for many years in the hiring process, in corporate America, corporate Canada, in the corporate world, in the admission of schools and professional schools, professional programs. There are many capable black young men and women, boys and girls who did not get accepted into medical school, law school. There are a whole bunch of them. It's happening. It's systemic. It's not just out there on the street with police officers. That's what you see. But what about what you don't see? It's happening. It's happening in the schools. Teachers are looking at little black boys and little black girls and saying, you're not going to be anything. They're taking the resources and giving it to the person who is fair-skinned or look just like them and putting up barricades, putting up blockades, putting up hurdles for the black kids. And they wonder why they can't make it, or they wonder why they see the trajectory of for people of color going in the wrong direction. Having listened to several podcasts, having listened to a video recently by the creator of VeggieTale, don't remember the guy's name right now, but he was talking about all of these systems were put in place, and all of them are based on hate. But I like to go a little deeper. All are based on hurt. Hate is only a manifestation of the hurt that people are going through. We're now at 49 minutes and 14 seconds, and I'm going to take about about another minute, and then after we're going to wrap up. And if anybody have any question, feel free to shoot a question at me, and let's see what we can go into this discussion. But I haven't opened up the chat line just because I just want to get this out. I just want to give you information before I get into the interaction. Okay, so as we wrap up, I want to say that thank you for your time. Thank you for listening. And I hope that as you listen, then you're ready. And I hope that you tune into my podcast, I'm Listening, I'm Ready with Andrew E. Guy, every Saturday at 10 a.m. in the morning Eastern Standard Time. And it's available out there. Go get it. It's available. Go check it out. It's out there on my podcast is also available on LinkedIn. It's also available on YouTube. It's also available on Overcast. It's over there on Speaker. It's over there. It's over there at Breaker. It's over there on iHeartRadio. It's out there. Check it out. It's out there on Spotify. It's out there. Go connect and let's keep this conversation going. All right. So as we wrap up, one of my favorite quotes of all time. It says, "Attitude is a little thing that makes a what? Big difference." Say it again with me. Attitude is a little thing that makes a what? Big difference. I'm gonna go out on a limb and I'm gonna say something. Attitude is the ingredient that makes the bread more digestible. Attitude is the ingredient that makes the bread more digestible. Because if your attitude stinks and it's sour, you're not going to be able to make a bread. Okay? And I want to give you a few things before I wrap up here that you can take with you. Number one, the power of now. In order for us to get through systemic racism, we have to understand that we also have gifts, skills, expertise. And the power of now is important. Now is the time to lift your voice. I don't mean you have to go out there on the street with a placard, beating down place, burning down place, talk about only Black Lives Matter. Every life matter. But guess what? Surgery is needed in the Black community. It's always been needed. And here was the crazy part. We're saying Black Lives Matter now, but this stuff has always been happening to Black people for years ago. Isn't that ridiculous that only now that it matters? It'll always matter. Okay? So now is the time. It's going to take every kind of people to eradicate systemic racism. It's going to take the person who is in the HR. It's going to take the person who sits on the diversity committee. It's going to take the person who is in the inclusion, who runs the inclusion, who heads up the mental health and resources, health and wellness resource. It's going to take those individuals. When people call me in to speak, I deal with those issues. There are people that are suffering from mental ailment, mental illness. Why? Because of some of the tensions, because of some of the ill work environment that have been in place, a systemic illness that is perpetuated within the work environment against specific individual, groups of individual. This is the stuff that we deal with. And when we talk about, sorry, we are having trouble playing this video. What are you talking about? All right, so thing just cut off. All right, so that's all our time. Take care, peace. If you end this now, the video will end.